Where to start, mate? I think this season, everything points back to half-time at Crystal Palace. Now, you've probably heard in the media, we certainly as Leeds fans all heard that there was an incident, a fight between players. Now, some players have come out and denied that. Who knows? But the simple fact is nothing was the same since. We've absolutely sleepwalked into relegation. Spurs' fourth goal yesterday just summed up us completely.
That was unbelievable, wasn't it?
I'd got time to get from my feet down onto the pitch and walk through that defence because it was just so easy. Now, a lot of them could just get in the bin. I've just no time from them. There was no fight, no half, with one or two exceptions. Forshaw, I think Harrison tried. But we shouldn't still be in this place 2-3 years on where we're relying on people like Bamford and Ayling. And God knows we've loved them. God knows we have. But I don't know where we go now, because by all accounts, I'm listening to local radio stations here that said we don't think there's a place, something in place for the 49ers to take place in the eventuality that we should go down. Well, good grief. We've been able to see that since last season, so why there wasn't something in place, I do not know.
It was £420 million the agreed total of the takeover, if indeed they were staying in the Premier League. But of course, that changes now that they're in the Championships, because no one's paying 420 million quid for a Championship club, are they? So they'll probably be thinking that they'll get a bargain out of it. They'll just renegotiate the price, won't they? Well,
yeah, but it all takes time, doesn't it? You know, that's the one saving grace, that Red Rosani don't get rich off this, I suppose. But they're not going to sit down on tomorrow and by lunchtime they'll hammer the deal out, because things just don't work like that. And time is of the essence, because it's such a rebuilding work needed down there.
The briefing that was coming out, though, yesterday was it will be sorted by the 14th of June, which is when the Championship transfer window opens. Do you want Big Sam in charge?
I don't think so, no. I mean, I've had a lot. I could see why they went for Big Sam, and I'm not criticising him. This is not his fault, and I do like the cut of his jib. I like how he talks, but we need to aim bigger. I mean, yesterday that was tactically all wrong. I mean, okay, conceding after 90 seconds, then the plan goes out the window. Of course it does, but we just didn't. We weren't set. No good keeping a clean sheet, because a clean sheet wouldn't have done us any good. We needed to score, and then hope.
Yeah, he will say he wanted to stay in the game and then try and strike as the game went on. That's why he set them up in that way. But I understand your point. Darren's an Everton fan. He's got a question for Simon. You're through to him. Ask him.
Morning, boys.
Morning.
Morning. MSP taking over at Everton Football Club. The exclusivity agreement with MSP. Am I right in saying that Everton are restricted from buying and selling players without Jan Jaffe's authorisation, or will it still be Mashiri who's making the decisions?
During the exclusivity period you're talking about, can they actually buy and sell players without the new incoming group, prospective owners, having a say?
Yeah, new incoming owners. What I've read and what I'm led to believe is that Everton cannot make any transfers without authorisation from Jan Jaffe. That's what I'm led to believe.
Well, I mean, I can't speak to that, but what I do know previously is that Everton couldn't do transactions without the Premier League being able to make sure that the deal that they're doing betters the outcome that they currently had. So when they were buying and selling players during the summer, whether it was Richarlison, whoever else, it's because there was a commercial benefit to Everton's position as a result of a transaction happening. Now, of course, if an ownership model is changing, then there's going to be this disconnect between what the outgoing owner will want to do, and the outgoing owner will want to do one thing, which is sell the football club. So they won't be focused.
Well, it's not clear that it's going to be a full takeover, is it?
Well, this is it. So you come to the point where you try and evaluate what it is that the deal is going to be. I mean, I don't understand the machinations of the deal. I do understand there's a fundamental part of it that's going to be about securing the development of the stadium, because that's a big part of what they want to achieve. But I think now, when you're talking about May, if you've got a recruitment network in place, which Everton will have, you'll have targets. It's about how you tick those targets off. And the ownership model, the two ownership models, one that's going out and one that's coming in, will have a degree of alignment about sensible decision making.
I suppose the good news is, Martin, is thank you very much. I appreciate the call, Darren. 03717223334 if you want to get involved in the debate. Martin, the good news is that you've got someone in Sean Dyche who's quite good at adapting, working without huge amounts of finances and finding, a couple of quid down the back of the sofa to get the players that he needs to keep a team in the division. He's shown he's got sort of form.
Yeah, and I do feel it's 100% down to him. I just had a little look there at the points acquired by Frank Lampard, 20 games, 15 points. He's had 18 games and he's had 21 points. Without those games that he's won unexpectedly against Brighton, against Arsenal, they'd simply be in the Championship. So I think all those Evertonians can thank him today for keeping them up. He's had to identify players. I mean, yesterday Conor Cody played. We haven't seen him, and without any attitude, he just straight in, put everything on the line.
He's only on loan from Wolves, by the way. So
he's only on loan, so there's kind of no
be
jeopardy for him. But to see the way that he celebrated at the end, you'd think he's played a major part. And I thought it was big of him to come in and do what he did. There was a lot of tension there yesterday at Goodison, and of course now they can't be in this position again. That's what everybody's worried about. So, but Sean Dyche has it in his gift really to build the club now. I think he got a little bit bullish because there was talk before the game that they might change the manager, whether he stayed up or not. And I just felt a sense from him he was right. Okay, I'm ready for a fight here. This is my club. I'm in charge. And I'm going to hopefully build it and do something special. So, out of the
it would be negligent, I think, to change him now, wouldn't it?
But didn't he sign a 3-year deal?
It was. I think it was a 2.5-year deal, wasn't it? So
Yeah,
to the end of this season and another 2 seasons.
Yeah.
So,
I think it was posed, though, wasn't it? The question that he
I don't know
might change.
But I don't know who been posed by, because I mean Sean Dyche is clearly a decent fit, and I don't think Sean's of the mindset to find money down the back of a sofa, because he's done that for years at Burnley. He wants to manage in the Premier League, and he wants to manage a decent side that's able to give him an opportunity to be.
But that was the quote that came out yesterday. He said, look, we got to understand that there'll be more sort of grinding out of results rather than because we have this ridiculous notion that every single team has got to play a brand of football that appeals to segments of the media. The best kind of football is winning football. And if you've got the luxury of being able to play beautiful football like Martin's side once did with Arsenal, and Manchester doing it right at this moment
but is
in time.
that the next step for Sean Dyche? Is that the next step now to commit to play more progressive football? Because I think at Burnley...
Isn't the next step just to
I
keep
know it
them
was
up
9 years.
be away from a relegation
It
fight?
is, but ultimately, when you progress, you develop, you improve, and you play a different type of football, don't you? You see Eddie Howe now playing really expansive football at Newcastle. Everyone's going to say, well, he's got amazing players. Well, Steve Bruce couldn't get a tune out of them. Well, he did. Okay, 1 or 2 players come in. So is it the next step now for Sean Dyche to grow a little bit and play a little bit more football?
Isn't that rushing it a little bit? First of all, this season, next season, it's about being stable and actually being, in the division again without any drama.
You want to be solid, compact, but from there you want that launch pad. I mean, the perfect performance for them was Brighton away. Can they do that every week? That's what they're looking for, but they certainly showed a real quality going forward. But maybe they got lucky that day. So they need to try and play a little bit more. And I think that's the disappointment I had at Burnley in that last season, was it was difficult to see them make passes, whether the confidence disappeared. Of course, it was a good story there, but the last season, they weren't playing the football necessary. Now, it becomes a habit, it becomes a brand. So what's to be the next brand?
You're asking a little bit too much of Sean Dyche. You just saved
No.
Everton.
I'm talking about the next step. The Evertonians don't want to just be scrambling for safety. They want to be building.
They've also got to be realistic, haven't they, about what they can achieve with the amount of
finance
that's
what he's
available.
got to try and manage. The expectations of that football club will never change.
What do you think?
Well, yes, I think there's merit in both arguments. I think ultimately Martin's point is right. The Evertonians have had a difficulty with the style of football, whichever manager it's been. They got fed up with a tippy-tappy brand of football that Martinez played. They didn't much like Silva for a period of time. They certainly didn't like Sam Allardyce.
They loved Ancelotti.
They loved for 5 minutes, and Ancelotti was an appalling appointment. It was always the appointment that was
to 5th in the table.
It was an appalling appointment for the long-term stability of a football club, because he was never going to be there for any period of time. And if you look at the players he brought in, that consequently cost Everton quite a lot of money, and they were found a difficulty getting out. It was a wrong appointment for Everton. It was a Hollywood appointment. It was an owner caught in the headlights of seeing a stellar name that was the moment a bigger football club came along, he was going to go. And he went to Everton because they paid him more money.
It was interesting how well Calvert-Lewin did under Ancelotti.
1 season. Absolutely.
Told him to play between the 2 goals. I don't want you running into the channels. I want you in the middle there. And he scored
no argument that for that one particular season, Calvert-Lewin was a handful. He got him into the England side. He did well, but that was then, and this is now. And for the last 2.5 years, it's not been the same. Now with Everton, I think Dyche has got to stabilise the team so there's a stable structure that he knows he can depend on, and then they can start building in a brand of football that's slightly more expansive. And with teams like Brighton, they'll give you a chance to play. In that instance, Brighton got caught in the headlights for a moment in time, and Everton prospered as a result of it. But I think Sean Dyche will build a side that will not be challenging for relegation next year, but they certainly won't be troubling the top 8. He'll build a bit of stability, and behind the scenes, if ownership models are changing and financial fair play landscapes are beginning to... If they get consequence, that's fine. That's for previous actions. But we're talking about going forward now. Are they still caught in the crosshairs of not being able to buy and sell players in the same way they once did before? And I don't think they are, which means that whilst Dyche won't get a fortune...
You know, they left him with a really difficult job because Lampard had lost 4 home games on the bounce. And we think about Goodison, don't we, as that cauldron place where you can get,
But this is what happens at Everton, isn't it? You get a new manager, you get a bounce, and then all of a sudden it goes on the drift again. That's what's happened.
That's what he's got to make sure doesn't happen now.
Well, they didn't get that much of a bounce with Sean. He took it to the last game. So he did the job. What he was asked to do was keep him in the Premier League. The next stage,
huge bounce by beating Arsenal first game.
Absolutely. That was the one bounce that we got. And obviously, at the business end of the season, they got another result against Brighton. In the middle of it, there were a lot of opportunities that they missed.
They've drawn their way to safety, really.
Doesn't matter how they got there.
No.
Everton fans would have had no problem with how they got there. Now it's about what Sean is going to be able to do to manoeuvre around that playing squad to get rid of people that have run their course there, to get people in place that want to play for Everton Football Club and to get better players in the dressing room and to do some trading to be able to balance the books if they've got financial concerns.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.